Bagseed Chronicles is a podcast about cannabis and the people who enjoy it. I hope to provide commentary about cannabis cultivation.
Once you have a slug, slither across your cola, it's gone.
Hi, welcome to the Bagseed Chronicles. I've got a great show for you today. I'll be interviewing my friend, Carlos Mullen, who is part owner of Nobaddays Ranch up in Washington State. And he's going to talk to us just a little bit about some of their Korean natural farming practices they use up there. And before all that, let's get into a garden update, shall we? I know it's been a while since I've been on. I'm going away from the production schedule. I'm going to release on a weekend when I release. A weekend for me is Friday through Sunday, but I don't know if I'm going to release every weekend. It's going to be kind of sporadic. Anyway, I bet you're wondering what's been going on in my garden. Uncle Dig's garden update. Hello, it is the 7th of October, 2021. We are in gardening zone 8B, and this is Uncle Dig with a gardening update. Now, all my cannabis is harvested except for one branch because it wouldn't fit in my drying room. I started harvesting due to an abundance of aphids. Now, of course, once I've harvested everything, there was a big cold snap, and that one branch's aphids problem isn't as bad. Some bad news. One of my chickens died. So, rest in peace, Hilda the chicken, who was taken in the night by some sort of animal. I have not been as good about locking up the chickens at night. I want to be better about that moving forward. Hilda was a friendly bird. She liked people, and as much as she liked people, she liked being loud at people even more. Hilda, your loud, hungry cries will be missed, and the garden will be a much quieter place without you. Some general problems in the garden this year were the place where I live, the city installed LED bulbs into the street lights. This caused my plants to produce underdeveloped flowers on some parts of the plants. Some parts of the plants were more affected by this than others. I will be growing autoflowers on this side of the house where those lights are to avoid this problem next year. I will be using some of the subpar buds that I harvested to make dry sift hash or something. It's a pretty good harvest, but it would have been larger without the supplemental lighting from the county. Now, I also finally found out where the aphids were coming from. One of my neighbors has a landscaping business, and at the end of this day, when he's done trimming trees and whatever, and trimming people's bushes, he brings back his trailer or his truck where he has all the trimmings and parks it right next to my fence. So that's where my aphids kept coming from, is from those trimmings. So I don't know what I'm going to do about that. But I am looking at expanding my indoor footprint moving forward, so I don't have to worry so much. Now I will say that I smoked some of the first Black Domina now, and it's been curing for about 2 weeks. It is lovely. It's not a daytime smoke. It will be perfect for bedtime, as I had hoped. The flavor is all indica with a weird, floral finish in it. It is very peppery, and I would hazard a guess not for everyone, but it helps me sleep, and I quite enjoy it. Now, the Star Killer that was affected most by the LED light smokes like a balanced hybrid. It has a green flavor. It is not the best bud I've ever grown, but if you smoke it, you get high, and it smokes clean and rips good in the bong. And I would call that a success. Now, the plant that was behind it, that was sheltered from the light, seems to have expressed itself in more of an indica fashion like I wanted. So hopefully, as I try more of the stuff I grew this year, I'll tell you what it was like. But keep in mind that there were some lighting issues at nighttime that were causing some weird stuff to go on. Like one part of my alien was purple and one part was less purple. It was weird. It was weird. Well, that's it for my garden update. Let's overgrow the world. Hi, everyone. Please join me in welcoming to the Bagseed Chronicles, Carlos Mullen. Carlos is a cannabis farmer. He is a Afghanistan veteran, and he is my good friend. Welcome to the program, Carlos.
Hey, what's up, Uncle Dig? How are you?
I'm doing great. I thought I'd have you on, talk a little bit about the upcoming harvest, maybe smoke a little weed.
Hey, you know what? I'm actually going to go snag the bong real quick here.
Do it.
All right, it's snagged.
Perfect.
Bong rip take. It's done. All right, so what's going on with you, Uncle Dig? What you got going on, and what are we going to talk about today? I know you wanted to ask me a few questions.
Oh yeah. I want to know what was going on out at the Nobaddays rants with everything. I know harvest is coming up soon. I know I've chopped a couple plants so far.
You know, it's been raining out here, which is it's an okay thing, but unfortunately, where we're at right here on the Key Peninsula, when it starts to kind of rain this time of the year, it doesn't tend to stop with its light drizzles. So, unfortunately, we lost on a few hoop houses. Some of the lower parts of the plants. Yeah. It was a bummer. Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's just a little bit of a loss, and you can still take that material and you can still put it in ethanol and do what you need to do with it. It's not a total loss. Granted, it's not going to make anything super great, fantastic. There's still a lot of great medicinal purposes that you can still be used from that what some would call a lost product, which is not.
Well, and you bring up an interesting point. When you're dealing with some of the concentrates, stuff that might not necessarily be smokable flower, as long as it's still like clean cannabis, you can use it to make other products that aren't necessarily smokable flower.
Tinctures, exactly, stuff like that. Stuff through creams, edibles, and all we do at Nobaddays Ranch is a clean product. We, like I've talked about before on the show, we don't use pesticides. We make all our own nutrients. So it's really a good time. But again, we are definitely hoping to get a little bit more sun. We want to dry, obviously, the plants out a little bit here, just because, a few years back, we took a pretty hard hit. We lost a few really good hoop houses because the plants and the buds got way too moist, and it caused so many problems, as a lot of people probably know. And we unfortunately, in a few hoop houses, got bud rot. On those, we don't like to put plants that get bud rot in anything that we do throw away. It's that we don't consider that, unfortunately. Fortunately, we don't consider that something that we can reuse. So that was a loss. That sucked.
Well, I mean, some stuff you just can't use, like stuff with like caterpillars all in it. You can't really use stuff with botrytis, like you said, you can't use. There's some pests that'll get into the buds so bad, even if you were to use the product, it would be diminished in its THC content. A perfect example of a pest that kind of hijacks a plant's ability to produce THC are certain kind of mites. If you get mites real bad, a lot of times you look at a bud that's infected with mites, it won't have the same trichome count on it as a healthy bud, because the mites are actually like messing with the plant so bad that it's like messing with that local like hormone distribution.
That's really interesting to know. That's one thing I should be really grateful for, is we've never had a mite issue. We do. I would say if we had any kind of weird situation going on, we have these gnarly slugs. Oh, they're huge. And those, once you have a slug, slither across your cola, it's gone. It's weird what happens. I don't know what it has to do with. I don't know if it's just the moisture. I don't know if it's the slug saliva. It's goo. It's whatever. It's secretion from his body
Are
that's
they
slimy.
eating it when they're going over your buds, man?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
That is
It's
so because I have garden snails in my area. Not so bad because I let chickens run through every now and again, which can present its own challenges. But I never had them like on my colas.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean it's definitely something that each year we're gonna always have to probably until we completely greenhouse or even start actually throwing hoops on the hoop houses, because right now we're just open air. We
Yeah.
don't even put hoops on the hoop houses, and because we're just such a small fire team here,
Yeah.
it's a 4-man crew. Well, I should say 4-man crew plus one, so it's definitely a challenge with the slugs, but we get it done,
Right.
um I know we love the tea. This is another kind of bummer about this part of the years. A lot of the times when we are teeing our plants now, um, the rain kind of washes out the tea, so it's got to be a little bit more consistent. And we got to get it in when we can get it in, because you obviously can't tea during the rain. It's just not
Right. You don't really
biological.
want to add any kind of fertilizer or amendment or additive to your soil when it's fully like getting rained on constantly, because a lot of
Yep.
times it can end up kind of flushing out your nutrients a little bit, especially right when you add them before they have a chance to kind of bond with the soil or start interacting with that soil biome. Once they do that, they're more inert with the soil for a little bit before the plant uptakes them. But right when you apply them, it doesn't matter. This doesn't matter whether you're organic or synthetic. It takes a second for the plant to be able to uptake that stuff. Even if it's going right in, it has to be in the soil for a second for the plant to do it. That's why watering to runoff when you're applying fertilizer is silly.
Silly. I'll repeat that. Silly. Um, you know, uh, on a topic kind of. I mean, it's on gardening. It's actually at my home. I didn't know what they were. It was pretty frustrating, but I found out they were termites. So I got an exterminator coming out. But I'll be really quite frank with you, man. I had a pretty good time for about 2 or 3 days. I haven't seen anything since I did this. Each day I would go out there. I had the hose right by it. I would turn the hose on, and I would take a blowtorch and I just blowtorch the whole spot they were at. I mean, every day. It was crazy because the first 2 days they would stay alive. I would push the mulch around. I would still see these little, the baby ones, but I finally did it for an extensive period of time, and now I haven't seen a single mite, which was pretty cool. I'm still having the exterminator come out, but
So harvest time is coming up. It's cooling off. You're hoping to get a little more sun. I actually had a spat of rain came through, and now the smoke in the valley is kind of cleared where I live. So I'm hoping that my buds will get a little bigger because they're a little small this year. Because I think a combination of me under fertigating, under fertilizing, and the smoke kind of blocking out the sun. And I've had this real weird issue. The neighborhood like updated our street lights, so they're all LEDs now. And now
oh, okay.
the part of my plant that faces the street light is like all underdeveloped and didn't enter flower properly and shit. So
Wow.
like I'm gonna like change the part of my backyard I grow in, and I'm gonna have to like invest in some more indoor grow infrastructure because this whole side of my house has just exploded. I mean, other than
Why don't you knock on your neighbor's door?
no, bro, no. This is city shit. They don't give a fuck.
Ah,
You see what I'm saying? It's like the street lights in my neighborhood. It's not even my if it was my neighbor, I could just go ask him to change to like a white light and it wouldn't matter.
yeah. You know what? I think also, gosh, one of my favorite movies, Dennis the Menace, man. Just get there, grab a good old slingshot, fix that problem quick.
Yeah, then they come out and fix it. Because the thing went out for like a month, but then they came out and fixed it, and then it went out
See,
again, and then they replaced it. They replaced it quick. They
good for.
noticed quick.
But no, I'm sorry that you're having that dilemma, man. That is quite a bummer. You know, it's already hard enough to harvest and garden and do what you do. You know, because I've seen your setup. It's amazing. Um,
Well,
so
I'm getting ready to bring it. I resisted, going indoors for a long time, but I think I'm going to try to get, if not this year, maybe next year, a 4x4 grow tent with like a 4x4 flower coverage light, and then just do some bigger indoor plants and do a smaller outdoor footprint than I have been, because the universe is not cooperating with my outdoor grow efforts these days.
that's exciting to transition. I think for the passion that you have for your outdoor, you're gonna have that same passion for your in. I know. Me personally, I can't wait till we greenhouse. It's going to cost a good about 200,000 just for the size operation that we have, but it's going to be nice. As much as I do love to consider myself, an original outdoor farmer, under the sun, and it comes with so much.
Well, and greenhouses open up a whole new world of, like, y'all can pick certain varieties, and you could use supplemental lighting, and you could almost do 3 crops a year, right?
Oh yeah, I just it's going to be fun to be able to manipulate and have our own time versus having to work with Mother Nature and what she has to offer. I love her, but right now it's so cloudy and it's been raining. The clouds are the last thing we need. We need some sun to dry our babies out. It's just I
Well,
wish
and
I could take
that's
a big blow dryer to them.
talking about pests and moisture. Like every year, it cools off toward the end of the summer. I start developing big colas, and then aphids start coming into my garden hard. And like, I just have to fight with the aphids every year, and it's like, one of the funnest things about growing indoors, that one plant, like, even though it got mites toward the end of the run, like the whole time, like, I wasn't fighting aphids because they couldn't get to the plant, because the way the aphids get into my garden is the little, like, flying ones land on my plants, and then they start having babies.
Yep.
And so, like, they can't do that. They can't fly in through a intake vent that's filtered. They can't do it. They can't get through. So it's just controlling the environment can save you so much problems. And I'm becoming a convert to the indoor stuff. It's just so expensive to get into, even for like a pretty, like, intermediate level light, like something like a Spider Farmer, or like a Mars Hydro or something. You're still looking at, like, for a 4x4, like a 4 foot by 4 foot space, you're looking at like anywhere from $400 to $500 to $600 for a light. And then you got to talk about ventilation, and then a tent or a small room that you've built out. It gets expensive, but the quality of flower is entertaining. Now, I will say that certain indoor flower doesn't have some of the stuff as outdoor flower, so I don't think I'll ever stop growing outdoor, because there's a quality to
Oh,
outdoor
please don't.
flower.
Yes,
Yeah,
way
but
different, way different.
and just in terms of yields that you can get outdoors, like the sun, if everything goes right, the sun can give you some of the biggest, baddest colas out there.
And I still think you can't compare sun grown to light grown.
No,
It's
you
not.
can't.
It's something that I love. I love and I enjoy. I'm not saying one's better than the other because I do love my indoor. But again, I think I love my outdoor. I would never, I would never substitute one for the other. And I think that for me, the kind of consumer that I am, I need both in my life. So
As a home grower, I mean, I think the best way to keep yourself in flower, is to do both, especially if you're someone like me who's got kind of a situation where they've got the time to kind of cultivate almost year round. Then why not? And honestly, indoors different, right? So outdoors, especially in the heat of summer when it's 105 degrees, it doesn't really matter how much water you dump on them in the morning. You still got to water them the next day. A lot of times they either expirate it all out or it evaporates off the top, like 6 inches of soil. Like you're, especially if you're growing in containers like I am, you're not, you're just going to have to water every day. I'm sorry. If it's
every day. I mean, for us during this heat, we actually have a watering system. It's
yeah.
pretty complex,
But
you know,
indoors,
but
if you have a healthy like soil that's like organic, um, you only have to water every like 3 days. It takes 3 days for that pot to dry out. So that's 3 days of like, you don't have to add water. You don't have to switch a thing. You don't have to worry about watering at all. So like with indoor growing, if you were to oversaturate the soil a little bit, or maybe let it dry out, like you could theoretically like leave for 4 days. And as long as everything automated, nothing broke, you could be
yeah,
okay. Now, in
yep.
my experience, doing that a lot, something will end up breaking and you'll have a bad time. But there's a certain
You can
flexibility.
go ahead.
There's a certain flexibility that indoor growing gives you that you don't have outdoors.
You can do that with outdoor to an extent. I mean, it's pretty automated where we're at, you know, during certain times of the year. You know, granted, you want to keep an eye and you want to be out there going to the plants and looking for things. So, yeah, leaving for 3 or 4 days. You mean that theoretically you could do that. You know what I mean? If everything was continuing to run fine, but I mean, you would be missing giving your plants the tea, and you know, which was just something you don't want to typically miss. And you would be missing, you know, potentially catching anything weird that's on the plants, or, you know, my biggest fear is doing that is, oh, what happens if we lose electricity or something happens and they could stop getting water? There goes the crop,
Well,
you know?
I knew a lady a person who had a tank system set up like on their property, right? And they went
Yeah.
like, whatever. They went on a weekend with somebody, whatever, whatever. Well, shit happens, right?
All the
Well,
time.
well, she had this watering system set up. Everything was fine. And on the last day she was gone, like, I don't know if like a valve stem broke or like a dog or like ran over it or what, but it knocked one of the spigots off and it just slow drained the whole, like it just drained the whole tank. And she ended up,
Yeah,
it ended up, a whole, not like, like a big, those big agricultural watering tanks. You see like those.
we have one. That's what we brew our.
It's
We make our
so
own teas.
expensive to fill one of those things. People
Oh,
don't realize.
I know. Oh, I know. I mean, just alone, we have a guy. Thank gosh, because one of the ingredients for our nutrients. One thing that we like to do, is we get these massive codfish, and we take the codfish and cut off the tail, cut the codfish right down the middle, open it. We stuff the codfish with brown sugar, a bunch of it, and then we stick it in a barrel, and it all just kind of drains out. And then, I think what I'd like to do is save the next step maybe for the next time we chat, because it's a really cool process. And then
Okay.
I'll send you to a really good spot. You can see a video, and because it is a really cool process. But that is a really good the first process, and it's something that I know is part of our tea, and it's amazing. It
So
really
you,
works well.
so you're talking about the fish additive in Korean natural farming that y'all are adding to your soil. So it's a fish sugar mixture that's then fermented, right?
Yep.
And then is that added directly to the top layer of soil?
We add that to our tea.
Okay.
We add that to our tea.
And then that's added to the top layer of soil, watered in, correct?
Yes, when we give our plants the tea, yes. We go
How
around
op-
and
how
tea the
often
plant.
do you give the tea to the plants?
We like to give the tea. I mean, we try to tea our plants ideally once a day, once or twice a day.
Oh,
I
so
mean,
you're kind of doing the equivalent of feeding daily.
oh yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, the tea that we give our plants, they love it. They absolutely love it. You know, when we definitely noticed one year when we didn't feed the plants, or when we fed the plants consistently like we should have, we
Yeah.
were growing 14, 15 footers. I mean, we got pictures of it on our No Bad Days, our nobaddays.com, nobaddaysranch.com website. It's pretty awesome. We have pictures. I mean, it's just they're huge. Now that we don't consistently do it, and we do it, you know, we try to keep it consistent. But you know, again, we're a small team right now. We've definitely noticed a substantial difference in how big the plants will get, but it still does a miraculous difference when we notice that we add the tea on a regular basis.
Okay. And are there any particular cultivars you're growing out there right now that you're particularly excited about?
I would say Hoop House 3 is pretty exciting. Um, I just it's a unique looking plant, you know. It's an older genetic, but a lot of people like the new gen shit. I'm kind of a fan of. I like green crack, you know.
Oh,
So
is
I'm
it green
excited.
crack?
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
Oh, okay. Well, green crack's a pretty plant, and like you know,
It is.
and I've said, I don't know if I've said this before on the podcast. I'm not necessarily a fan of like hanging out and smoking green crack. But if we have some green crack and we have like a hike, or we need to clean something, or we need to trim a bunch of weed, maybe, then maybe green crack's great. But other than that, like if I just want to chill, or even have like a conversation that's not like a little unhinged, green crack's not my friend.
Yeah, I like that up feeling with green crack. You know, I think it's something that for me, just it gets me through the day. You know, I suffer from depression. Um, it doesn't give me anxiety like it does some people. You know, so
Oh well,
uh,
yeah, I have the anxiety problem real bad.
oh
I
yeah, too much green crack would give me anxiety, but you know, I as weird as that sounds, I don't mind that sometimes. It's a weird kind of anxiety that I don't know. It's not an unhealthy anxiety for me.
Well, see,
Um,
I get that like with like Durban poison, I get like an edgy feeling that I enjoy.
yeah, yep.
But
Those are the times I find myself most creative. I'll be quite honest with you, you know, because I do like to do music. I do like to play my video games. You know, just you know, I do like to garden. Those are the times I find myself to be the most creative when I'm on that edgy anxiety kind of feeling.
yeah, see, but my mind gets to racing and I can't even focus on anything. And that's when like a nice indica is nice, even if it takes longer to create a product because I'm like stoned too much. It's better that I'm focused on it rather than like out in space on a sativa, or like sober and just like bouncing off the walls and not able to focus on anything.
You know, I'd like to say, I know this is again a little off topic, but um, unfortunately, you know, I like to think because the military does a horrible job with providing the soldier care when they're getting out of the military. I think that cannabis should be an option. Um, and a lot of us turn to alcohol and pills, and it's a reason why a lot of veterans lose their lives. So I wish our government would get hip to that. Cannabis is something that could help our veterans, especially those that are going through some issues. So
Now, one thing I'd like to say about like the whole thing is once this is a big thing why we should federally legalize cannabis. Because once we federally legalize cannabis, there are some very interesting government programs for veteran-owned businesses. I assume that they would include cannabis businesses once that became legal. I don't know how the framework for a VA dispensary would work, but I have heard in Canada that they actually dispense an amount of weed equivalent to like an eighth or 3.5 grams of cannabis to a veteran on a monthly or weekly basis. I've been trying to find a Canadian veteran to interview just about this topic. If anyone wants to come onto the Bagseed Chronicles for like 7 minutes just to tell me how you get your government eighth of weed, I really want to educate my audience about this program and figure out if it would be a good model for the VA here in the United States.
That would be rad.
I really think it would be. I don't know that an eighth is enough, but an eighth is a start. It's a slogan that we can get a bunch of angry disabled vets to start shouting at congressmen in meetings like, fuck a war away, an eighth a day. And then they'll be like, what the fuck is this dude talking about? You know, we could get it out there. I don't know. Is this the hill I'm going to die on? Jesus Christ. All right. Anyway, so
You know, an eighth a day keeps the nightmares away.
it really can. Maybe an eighth a week. We can eighth a week. I don't know. An eighth a day is a lot of weed to ask the government to pay for. Maybe an eighth a week or an eighth a month. I don't know what it is. I mean, and that's the other thing. My cannabis consumption is definitely up from when I first started. I think the first 2 years I smoked cannabis, I would go through maybe an eighth a month. You know, I didn't really smoke that much. I'd smoke right before bed.
Well, it would definitely be cool to hear somebody from Canada, a veteran, calling that either the other programmer knows about or somebody that knows about the program, because you're right, championing that would be pretty cool in Congress. I think it's ridiculous that, again, we have these options of alcohol and these pills, but when it comes to something that's natural, something that I've personally grown that's completely clean, that is not even considered to help friends of mine that probably could have really used this plant, and they would still be here right now if the government wasn't so hard on cannabis.
Yeah, and this is why, like, even though I really enjoy the counterculture aspect of cannabis and cannabis aficionados and people who appreciate cannabis, I think that once we enjoy legal protection, people like, I mean, I know that when I started consuming cannabis, I started drinking a lot less. And then eventually I was able to quit drinking and quit smoking tobacco. Every once in a while, you know, I admit I'll have a cigar or I'll smoke a hookah with somebody, but I don't smoke cigarettes anymore. You know, I used to be a 3-pack a day smoker.
I
So
mean, oh, I as you know, in my personal life, I just got diagnosed with Crohn's, and I'm going through this gout situation, and that's from extreme alcoholism. And I'll tell you this, um, cannabis right now is once again going to be my saving grace, because I went sober for 4 years, best years of my life, and it was because I was consistently, medicating properly and doing what I needed to be doing. So it's again really fortunate that I've realized where to turn to, and it's no longer an option for me now. This is now my life that I have in my hands, literally. To I have my life in my one hand. Unfortunately, for a while, I've had the bottle in the other, so I've got to put it down, and I'm about to pick it up with the joint. So,
well, and like you find different things, right? Like, for me, one of the things I really liked about drinking was the tactile feeling of that glass bottle, right? Like, like a really nice bottle of liquor has a feel to it. It's heavy. You could beat like someone to death with it. It's so heavy and it probably wouldn't break. But like a bong kind of has that same feeling. So every year I buy myself a new ridiculous bong, even if I don't really need or want one, because it fulfills that like bottle tactile sensation. And then I've got a shelf of glass, right? Like it's like my liquor cabinet. Like I've got a whole different vibe now to keep me from like, kicking my liver to the curb and stomping it.
It's actually pretty cool, man. That's actually something that I may even start investing in, because I buy bongs and I just go through them and trash them. I just might buy some collector bongs and put them up on the shelf and keep them there for just looks.
Well, I know this is a radical concept for Carlos and many stoners out there, but you can clean a bong once a week and you don't have to destroy it.
I'm sorry, that vernacular is distant from my reality.
You mean you're not gonna get every Sunday morning, you're not gonna get up early and meticulously clean your bongs like Uncle Dig?
I wish I could be more like Uncle Dig with that, routine, but it just after a while I ended up just retiring the bong, putting it up or putting it down, and getting a new one.
Well, I go through periods of that too where I won't clean them, and that's when having like five is nice because one will get dirty and I'm like, I don't want to clean it this week, and I'll go grab another one that'll be spotless. But then one Sunday comes along and you're like, I got to clean my bongs, and then you have five that you've got to clean, and that's not always fun.
No, that sounds like a miserable time there. Miserable. So, how about this? You've smoked on anything delicious lately?
Oh, dude, I'm like, it's like dropping the lighter good. Is this I'm smoking this LA Pop Rocks that I picked up
Ooh.
today. I'll tell you the person who grew it. It's on the label. Um yeah, Grown Rogue grew this,
Ooh.
which is in as a farm in Southern Oregon. It's LA Pop Rocks. It's testing at 21.86% THC, and it's like one of those like really cool like heavy indicas with like a fruity aftertaste. I've really been digging it. It hits super smooth.
I tried some white runts and it was absolutely incredible the other day. I typically wasn't a big fan of the runts line. I just it wasn't for me. I don't know if I wasn't having anything really authentic, but when I tried this, oh my gosh, it was it tasted amazing. I almost wondered, with how they do with distillate there, they terpene enhance it with some artificial bullshit. I was like, are they able to do that with bud now? Like, am I missing
You
something as a
know,
farmer?
you know,
Like, is it what's going
there,
on?
Carlos, there's some freaks out there. You gotta, I keep reminding myself when I look at my garden and I look at some of my other people's garden, that most of the people that I learn from or I associate with are much older. They've been doing this much longer, and I've seen some weird stuff out in the hills. I've seen uh a cut of Jaeger that literally looked purple when it finished. I was trimming weed that was just straight purple, and like not tinged with purple or purple highlights, just straight perp. Just
They
that's
didn't
all.
dye it. They didn't dye it or anything.
No, dude, there's no, it was,
See,
and there's just some people that have figured out a trick, or they've got a cut that nobody knows about that they're hoarding, and you see stuff when you get out in the hills trimming and stuff, and you start to question like some of the conventional wisdom of like what it means or what you do to cultivate the plant. And I'll be the first to admit that I am by no means an expert. I am a passionate amateur, and anytime I learn something new, I want to share it with everybody so they can start further ahead than I did, because I'm still learning and I still am far behind where I want to be as far as knowledge of how to cultivate. But I think as it becomes more mainstream to cultivate at home, people will learn more in 5 years than I did. People will, I see people now that are growing, some of the best cannabis I've seen in my life, and they've done 2 runs. And that's how it should be. It should be easy. We need to make it easy for people. So I'm excited to share.
I don't think growing will ever be easy, but it's I think it should be accessible, easily accessible to people to be able to do. Um, I just it's often that I hear within the cannabis community, at least out here in Washington, I-502, you know, oh
Yeah.
man, when it goes federal, we're gonna be fucked. But I'll tell you this, I don't think we are, as producer processors, even if we're small. I think it's gonna open up, an avenue for us to find ourselves in a better position. Hopefully they'll accept us like wineries. Hopefully they'll accept us like some of these breweries. Hopefully we'll be able to, be able to show our personal craft and our passion. It's not something that we should be dreading. And I think a lot of smaller operations are. And I would say to them, if any of them are listening, keep your head up because we're gonna make it.
Here's what I'll say to all the craft producers out there. A lot of you are producing a product that is clean in a way that a lot of cannabis these days is not. There's a lot of room out there for mass produced bottom and mid shelf bud and bottom and mid shelf concentrates. But if you're at a smaller scale, and you're producing top shelf product, it is my sincere both belief and hope that there will always be a place on the shelf for you. Now, in some states, that's true more than others. That's always going to be variable based on the scale of production in your area and the laws of the land in your state. Washington, you are fucking up.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Oh, like it floors me that you cannot home cultivate in Washington. It floors me. You're not missing out on much. It's almost impossible to grow outdoors in a backyard in large portions of that state because of the weather. I mean, you're talking about the challenges growing in a better setting, but if you're growing in Tacoma or Lakewood or Seattle, forget about it. You can do quick, early flowering, short indicas. You're not going to yield much. It's going to be mostly indoors, and the big producers and the small producers are still going to, be selling plenty of weed. Trust me.
Yeah. Indoor out here can be booming just like anywhere, but you hit that nail right on the head there, Uncle Dig. Out here, it's not it's a quick get it before the rain comes, because if you don't, it's a wrap. The weather out here in these areas, it will all that work you did put in is going to be gone in one frost, in one mini thunderstorm, because we don't really have lightning out here. We have a lot of rain and wind. So
I've seen a lot of grows end that way. That's how a lot of grows in the Northwest, all the way from Washington where you're growing, all the way down south of me, all the way down in Humboldt. A lot of grow seasons end with crews of people running out into fields or racing rain clouds because they know this is the first full week of rain and there's going to be no drying out. So we got to pull it all.
Bro, it was 2-3 years ago. Nobaddays, I get a call, from my partner, and he says, "Hey man, I need you to get out here now." I'm like, "Okay, I'm coming." And bro, it was the windiest day. This guy, the whole week, I got to give it to my partner because he stays out there all the time. But legit, our hoop houses, we had actually got covers on them this year. One of the years we had covers on it, and the wind was picking up under the hoop house, and it was the hoop houses were flying. It was incredible. The netting was getting destroyed. It was the same year we had lost, the hoop houses that I said earlier, actually, to the unfortunate, rot. But it was just such a horrible year with weather that year, and the winds. Yes, a lot of crops do go out because of the winds, the outdoor ones out here in this area.
But also the thing about this area that's been interesting is like some of the best cannabis in the world comes out of the Northwest and Northern California. And I think
hands down.
And it's there's some X factor here. Now I know that other states are killing it, and I know that I haven't sampled like every cannabis that's out there. I'm hoping that next time I go to Oklahoma, I'm hoping that I'll have all my medical stuff up in line so that I can go there and I could enjoy some cannabis flower there. There's some other places in the States that I need to go, and I need to have some of their stuff. I had some Colorado weed when I was driving cross country, and that stuff, every region's different, man. And that's
that's the
really
beautiful
cool.
part. Yep, I love it. I love it. It That's the beautiful part about the plant. Every different every region, every place that has a different type of soil, depending on where it's at, getting certain amounts of sun, just everything, all that stuff. That's what makes the plant such a beautiful plant, because she can adapt.
And here's what I'll say. I will definitely say that your headspace can really affect, the high that cannabis gives you. I think cannabis hits different in different states because of like the vibe. Like, it's pretty accepted here in the Northwest. There's not a lot of heat on you smoking weed, right? So it's a mellower high. But if you're like in Wyoming, hotel allegedly smoking weed, maybe you're a little spooked, you're a little edgy, you're looking around. It's a little bit more paranoid. It's a little more psychedelic. It's a little more, ooh, it's forbidden, and it's got a different edge on it.
I mean, I think that's anywhere. I think comfort zone has to do with, I think it's just your comfort zone, because I've definitely, well, not anymore now. I've been, I'm over 35. I've been consuming cannabis since I was 12. I've gotten to the point where now I can go into a cannabis setting completely blazed and to look at somebody and not care, because this is my life. But there have been times though, when I didn't get where I wasn't quite at this point, where I would, even in my own state, in the comfort of my own home, around family members, they would come over. I knew they didn't consume, they didn't like it. And I would catch myself feeling that anxiety, discomfort feeling. So I think I think it has to do with comfortability. Yeah, you're exactly right with the feels have to do with how the cannabis affects you.
Well, and I think that
your mental feels,
for sure. And I think for a lot of veterans in particular, we have a responsibility to kind of show people that this really isn't that big of a deal. And for the relatives that I've had around and I've consumed around, they've really come around in a big way. And I think that's amazing. Like, I've consumed cannabis. Now I didn't like hit a bong or smoke a joint. I hit a vape cartridge in front of my mother. I don't know. I probably wouldn't still be weird, but she doesn't like me smoking. So for her, it's not the cannabis consumption, it's the smoking. But my veteran status was part of her like accepting my cannabis consumption. And I think that has helped a lot of people come around. So I think as veterans, we have a responsibility to speak honestly and openly to a certain extent.
I agree. Again, putting rounds down range and hitting the target right in the bullseye there, Uncle Dig.
And I understand that I have to use a euphemism, but that's like, I have to use a nom de plume. Like I'm using an alias, Uncle Dig's not my real name, but I think that is for completely separate reasons. But I think that it's important that people who can and have a platform speak out on it a little bit, because it's really important that we continue the march toward legalization in states where it's not legal, because people are facing like real world consequences for this plant that are ludicrous. It's ludicrous to be arrested for a small amount of cannabis. It's outrageous.
Ludicrous to be arrested for cannabis, period. I think cannabis should be treated like your tomato plant.
I agree with you. And I think that eventually it will be. I think eventually there will be people who are growing for consumption purposes that are going to get mad at their neighbors because their neighbors are growing autoflower males because they think they're pretty and pollinating everybody's plants. And I think that when we're there, when little old ladies don't know to pull their males, it's going to cause problems, but it's going to be beautiful that so many people are cultivating. Like, I think we're going to have, decorative pink-haired cannabis plants on front flower boxes combined with sunflowers and stuff. I think it's going to be really cool.
I hope that vision comes to life. You spoke it. I hope it becomes something that we can see, in our lifetime, because that sounds like a very cool existence. Very cool, man. I even think, by then, if we are getting those issues, that'll be, again, just like the industry's already done now, and the changes that have happened since, prohibitions ended. Well, not completely ended, but, you know, um, I think there's going to be somebody that capitalizes on that looks at it and says, "Hey, I can teach. Let's educate." And there's going to be a lot of really cool educational platforms like, "Hey, Uncle Dig show, your show." You know, when that happens, you'll be able to share this information, and people will be able to come and get their gardening tips from you, because somebody's going to have to let the people know, some knowledgeable information like you just shared with that.
Well, and here's the other thing: like we've been breeding cannabis mostly as a chemovar, right? Like a lot of times, like visual characteristics are have been secondary, but then wait until like the rose, like the people who breed roses and the people that breed all these flowers for their visual characteristics get a hold of cannabis. I've seen cannabis with pink and almost black and different shades of green across spectrums that I don't even think I can see, red, orange, all kinds of different, almost blue hues in the leaves. Wait till people start breeding it for its visual characteristics instead of its THC production, and what kind of weird cultivars that people are going to come up with just to display.
It'll be exciting. Um, right now it's exciting what people are doing with, phenos, and just, making their own strains. I can't wait till my company gets into that. We're not quite there yet. But our winterized distillate and RSO is just exceptional now.
Oh, if
Our
y'all breed an indica, I will we'll have to look into the legality of it. But if I am legally able, I would love to cultivate a No Bad Days indica.
Actually, there's a program out here in Washington that I've been hearing some I-502 producers doing, where they're allowing, if you have a medical card out here, which is you'd be able to get, I could actually give you cuts. You could come out. I can give up to, I think, 24 cuts. So to medical patients, really medical
Okay,
patients.
we'll talk about it offline, man.
Yeah, it's definitely not illegal. It's
No, no,
definitely
yeah,
legal.
but yeah, I feel you.
So again, that's something that I'm really, really, what's the word? Hmm, Emotional, or um, what am I looking for? Passionate about just not being scared about talking the legal stuff that we're allowed to do. If it's legal, we should be talking about it with, assertiveness, and, hey, did you know we can do this? It's again, if it was something we should be talking offline, for one, I probably wouldn't be discussing it just because of the legalities, and I'm not here to do things offline either.
No, no,
With it.
I feel you. I feel you. But like, I'm not a member. I'm not in Washington. I'm in Oregon. So there's an interstate aspect to this you're not thinking about. If I was a
Well,
if I was a Washington patient, then I could take cuts from you. But right now, I can't legally. I can't take the cut. And see, but here's where it gets. I can't take cuts across the state lines, right? Because cuts have THC in them. But see, if y'all were breeding seeds, seeds don't have any THC in them. So if you were to give me a seed, then and I grew that seed, you wouldn't be responsible for the transport of the seed because it has no THC in it. You wouldn't be responsible for what I did with it once you gave it to me. And then I'd have my legal protection through Oregon Medical. So we'd be good with a seed, whereas a cut is a gray area, real gray.
that's why you come to Uncle Dig for your newest and best cannabis information.
Now,
That was
if you,
actually,
yeah,
geez, man, are you a lawyer?
no, I've been following. I've been so when we work on this it's a bust category for the other show I do on Radio Tacoma with Lucas Barfield, the Cannabis Corner. It's more of a news oriented show than this. um we talk about like people getting busted. And one of the things that people get busted with small amounts of cannabis for, like, like a 1 pound or, it's medical patients that thought they were covered, but because they were transporting across state lines. Perfect example. Let's say an Oregon patient drives to Idaho with 6 ounces in his bag. He gets busted. He thinks he's covered. He's not. He's like, but it's legal. And he's like, his protection didn't extend across those state lines. And because of the way cannabis is legislated, Oregon does want to do interstate commerce, but the other states don't and can't stand up to the federal government like that. Now, when it's federally legal, it may be legal for me to come up one day with a razor blade and just take cuts from you and just put them in an ice chest and come down here and try to propagate them. But we're not there yet. And also there are some really good reasons that we don't want to transport plant material across state lines, whereas seeds are better, right? Seeds are while they're a vector for plant diseases, they're not necessarily a vector for pests, right? Whereas cuts, right, you could be distributing a kind of cannabis pest that is tolerable at the cooler climate in Washington, but in Oregon becomes out of control and becomes a real problem. So there's other considerations besides the legality and what the state says you can do when you're transporting cuts long distances. That's why a lot of these like shady online like cut mailing things where they're mailing people clones or online and stuff, I don't really care that it's illegal. That's not why it worries me. It worries me because of the possibility for pest transmission in a larger area. I don't want cannabis specialized mites to become a problem in Oklahoma any more than they were in Oregon when we first got them. I don't want whole crops to be lost to pests that aren't a problem in one area but become a problem in another area due to environmental factors. I don't want that to happen.
That actually is something that I, again, can completely agree on. I don't want anything coming funky already. We already deal with enough over here. It's definitely something that I wish I could just snap my fingers and get rid of, but you can't. It's once you get an issue on your plant, as you know, it tends to be something that just can't be fixed by tomorrow. So
yeah, a lot of times especially when you're growing organic craft, you're limited as to what you can spray on your plants. And if you're getting, a tested product, it's even more so. So you a lot of times have to use these really, gentle sprays that require multiple applications in certain ideal conditions. It can be labor intensive and hard to scale.
Well, I want to say, Uncle Dick, I really appreciate you having me on the show. My kids just got home from school, so I'm going to go nourish my other little plants and see what these kids got into today at school.
All right.
Please have me on any time. I love your show. I love the knowledge I get from it. Keep digging.
All right, man. Thanks for coming on. Have a good one. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Bagseed Chronicles. The bumper music is performed by Chad DeVilliers. You can find him on YouTube at Ukuleles Are Stupid or on Instagram at Chadwick Enterprises. Harmonica and guitar and any vocals are performed by Uncle Dig. I can be reached at uncledig4@gmail.com or follow me on Instagram at Uncle Dig.